Who do you want to come in? Who do you want to come in and replace him right now? Who's at the top of your list? Who do you think is a right manager stylistically? Who is the right kind of manager that can handle Liverpool and keep you winning?
There's two managers for me that are above everyone else. And I'm sure probably the chat even will agree. And that's Zidane and Xabi Alonso if he wins the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen. Because if Xabi Alonso wins the Bundesliga with Bayer Leverkusen, people need to understand something. Bayern Munich have established such a dominance over the Bundesliga over the last 10 years. It's pathetic. That's why no one watches that league. For good reason. Because it's like every year Bayern. So if Xabi Alonso breaks the duck with Bayer Leverkusen, because prototypically, actually, if I asked you before the season started or anyone in the chat, who are the three best clubs in Germany, 90% of the people would probably say Bayern, Dortmund, and Leipzig. People won't even say Leverkusen in there to begin with. So if he wins that Bundesliga, then I think for me, he'd be perfect for us because we need a winner right now. Zidane, for me as well, would be incredible because he knows how to work with these players like the Virgils, the Trents, the Allisons, the Moes. He knows how to work with these level of players, these type of players. And the future of Liverpool Football Club now is in John W. Henry and Fenway Sports Group hand. They hold the keys to the future of Liverpool Football Club because they have to make the right decision. Like if we get Potter, I'm Potter out the day he walks in. If we get any of these idiotic hipster managers, I'd just be so angry. And I want the guy out the day he comes. Like De Zerbi. I don't want De Zerbi.
I was about to say, what about De Zerbi? A few Liverpool fans on our show this morning, G, for instance, said like he looked at De Zerbi as the right kind of manager.
I don't want De Zerbi. I think he's just the hipster favorite. Everyone likes De Zerbi. Like, it's the same people who use field tilt and shit like that. I really don't like De Zerbi, to be honest with you. I'd rather Xabi Alonso or Zidane. I feel like to just keep the club in a position like, okay, Jurgen Klopp's handing you the club in a very good position. Might as well carry that on with a winner. That's what I'm saying. Zidane would be perfect. That's what I'm saying. Xabi Alonso, if he wins the league with Bayer Leverkusen, would be perfect. And any of these like, Brendan Rodgers type appointments or De Zerbi or any of these things, I just don't like it, to be honest with you. I really don't like it. I think De Zerbi is really overrated. I don't think he's done something that special as people make out. Like, yeah, the football is good, but like, okay, Company plays good football with Burnley. Like, do you want me to want Vincent Company? So yeah, we need a winner. We need someone who could take it to the next level. Specifically, if Pep Guardiola stays. Like, if Pep Guardiola stays, what's the point? Keep like
you mentioned
someone who essentially is trying to do Pep Guardiola B-Tech version. Like, it just makes no sense.
You mentioned Zidane. Do you think Liverpool have got the money and the pull? Not the pull. This is a man that so far has said publicly, via, of course, his representation, I don't want to come to England. Do you think Liverpool is powerful enough to make Zidane change his mind and bring him to England?
Of course, Liverpool Football Club are the biggest club in England. If we don't have pull to get him in, then who has pull to get him in? So yeah, I think we can get him to change his mind. But it's just about these decisions that you need to understand something, Terry. These decisions will shape up our future. It will shape up our future. And as you said, there are players in this Liverpool team that don't have time for your bullshit. Like I'm speaking to the ownership group here. If you get a Graham Potter in and Mo Salah, Virgil, or any of these guys leave the next day, I have no problem with that. I'll scrap them off. I'll say thank you very much. Because then I know the club is just going into the shits, basically. Because we can't put ourselves in a position where the world-class players or the players on the brink of becoming world-class at Liverpool Football Club sit there and are looking at Graham Potter or a De Zerbi or a manager like that. We need an elite manager. Or a manager at least who's just underneath the bracket of elite. That's why I used the example. Xabi Alonso winning the league this season with Bayer Leverkusen. If he wins it with Leverkusen, he stopped the Bayern Munich run. So that's what Klopp done as well. So it would kind of be, maybe at least moving in a similar direction. Xabi Alonso probably makes the most sense. If I'm saying sense, like logically, sensically, he makes the most sense. He's a former Liverpool player as well. The good thing about Xabi Alonso that I really like is you can tell that managers who are like players who are managers now are always influenced by the guys who managed them. Xabi Alonso was managed by Benitez, by Mourinho, by Pep, and by Ancelotti. He was actually managed by four of the greatest managers, in the game.
Yeah, of course. I think
So
it's
that
interesting because
influence
Bayer Leverkusen have actually come out and I think they've stated that they will not stand in his way. I also think it's in his contract that if Madrid, Liverpool, there's one other team that he played for. I want to say Sociedad. I could be wrong. That he's played for. And it could be Bayern, but someone mentioned. Did he play for Sociedad? Why is that in my head? I could be completely wrong when I say that. I was listening to a podcast.
Was it Sociedad or Valladolid? One of these.
No, he played for Real Sociedad. Yeah, he did. Basically, I think Bayern are on there as well. Basically, all the teams that he played for, he has it in his contract that if they approach, he's able to go for a relatively small level of compensation. He's allowed to have the conversation. So I was listening to it on a podcast today. So look, I think he's a fair shout. And there are some, by the way, that think he's a hipster manager. And I don't know personally. I think it's a risk because although he's top of the league right now and he looks really, really good, it's still only 1 year. But there's something, there just appears to be something a little bit special about him.
Here's my logic. He cannot be a hipster if he wins the Bundesliga with a team other than Bayern.
No, I understand. I understand. It depends on everybody's definition of what a loved by the hipsters means. It's because the hipsters do love some people that are absolutely brilliant as well. It's I look at the hipsters more as they have a certain view of football and they're very rigid within it. And if you don't sit within that parameters, they all sort of talk about you like you're not good at football, even though there are some greats that don't fit within their framing per se. But yeah, look, I think Alonso could be a good fit for you. If you could convince Zidane, that would be great. I do think a De Zerbi, I do think a potential Almiron, I do think these individuals could also do well at a club like Liverpool if the right level of sporting director and technical director is also brought in. You've got a lot of people leaving with Klopp because it's about the structure being right at the football club. And this is where the only time in this whole process I'd be really scared as a Liverpool fan is, first of all, if you brought a fouled man. So Graham Potter comes in, he's fouled at the last club he was at. At least with De Zerbi, he's improving Brighton, he's moving them forward. Who knows? He might win the Europa League this year. If he went and won the Europa League this year, the first time that club's ever been in Europe, that would change people's perception of him. But
yes,
I think the biggest fear I would have if I was a Liverpool fan is if your club start talking rebuilds, phase one, brand new project. Because you don't need, and I hear people say, we need a project manager. And I don't always know what that means anymore. Because I view a project manager, what Liverpool need, yes, someone that can handle a project, doesn't always get what he wants, has the ability to stay long term. So managers like Jose's, managers like Antonio Conte's, I've never viewed as long-term. They come into a team when it's really good and they win for a few years and they leave. So you need someone who can do what Simeone's done. Not every year is going to be a great year. Not every year are you going to get the most amount of money to spend. But you can stand the test of time and your team, identifies with you. They run through brick walls for you. They need that. They really do. Equally, though, with the way you've built this squad and all the money you've spent, you need somebody that's a pretty close match from a football ideology point of view as Jurgen Klopp. So I look at Diego Simeone and think, I don't think Simeone's football's ugly, but I don't think their styles match. So you go for Simeone and you think that's when you might need 15, 16, 17 new players to win a league for him. And I think that it's going to be, I'm really intrigued because we've bigged up Liverpool. And we've bigged up City now for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. The way their clubs are run, the way they're structured. This is the first time we see one of them, after all that praise, change management. Let's see how seamless and how well they do it. And if it doesn't work, and we've all spoken about before, like the Bayern Munich is so brilliantly run. They're bringing a manager that isn't working with, sack so quickly. Let's see whether you guys bring in a new manager, say it is De Zerbi, and halfway through the first season, you're sitting 8th in the league and you're playing awfully. Because you've built a structure now, I would expect you to sack him and replace him quickly, not say we're sticking by him for 3 years because this is a new project. It shouldn't be a new project with every manager. It should be you pick up where the last guy left off and you run it the Liverpool way. So I'm really excited to see how this kind of pans out and everything else. Just as, again, that's that element of
the
football,
decision making has to be smart.
What
you just said here is key. What you just said is exactly how I feel, because look, the next decision will shape our future, whether it be long-term or short-term. It's just like when you look at the current situation at Liverpool Football Club, we cannot afford to make a wrong managerial appointment, Because let's not act like the manager is going to walk into a squad of bums. Like, it's not like, when Jurgen Klopp first walked into Liverpool, it's not like, someone maybe, taking over a rebuild or whatever. Like, the guy literally has Mo, Trent, Virgil, Alisson, Konate. Like, there are very good players in this team. You mentioned the stylistic side of things. Xabi Alonso actually uses his right wing back and left wing back as outlets, as people who get involved in the goals and all this. So that's perfect with Trent in there, with Robertson in there, with Tsimikas, with whoever. Like, we have even the tools to even do that. So that's why I think, like, in terms of logic and sense and logically, Xabi Alonso probably makes the most sense on paper. Now, the one thing I will say is Bayer Leverkusen are essentially the Spurs of the German league. Like, there was in the year 2000, 2001, I think it was, they were in the Champions League final, the Cup final, and they were top of the league. They ended up losing the league, losing the Champions League, and losing the Cup final. So they're not really known for winning stuff. So if Xabi Alonso manages to get that club to win something, that's unbelievably, how can I say, impressive.
Huge, yeah. I think that's right. There's a comment that came through here, and it's a good question. It says, Terry, are you saying Liverpool shouldn't reinvent itself? yeah, and I am saying that, yes. My club's biggest issue after Fergie wasn't so much the managers that we went after. It was that we allowed all of them to reinvent the current Man United system. And it could be rules and regulations, style of football, player personnel, how we recruited. Every single time a new one came in, and it averaged every 18 months to 2 years, the world changed. We tried to reinvent ourselves, start a new project, new process. Well, I don't care for the word. It's all amounts to the same thing. Liverpool, some people say Liverpool plays via you see Jurgen Klopp in the way they play. Great. Then you adopt that philosophy. And then what you have to do is find a manager who is, you're never going to get a complete clone. It's impossible. But what you need to find is somebody that fits 80%, 85%, 90%. So that when they come in, there isn't a complete overhaul at the club where the players feel like their worlds have changed, or they're being asked to. Imagine you training and teaching, and it isn't just your first team, it's your academy players, it's the way you scout. They're looking for specific player attributes to fit the ethos of the club, both physically, mentally, and on a technical ability level. If you suddenly bring someone in who's only a 10% match to that, and they start changing the world, you are going against the grain. And if you've ever shaved against the grain on your face, you know how painful that can be. So there should be no reinventing now of Liverpool. It should be looking to continue along the same path, but with new individuals. That is how great clubs are run in the modern day era. And yes, you can make a mistake by bringing the wrong coach in, but then you can quickly replace them. Once your club is built and it's at the highest level, there should be no need for rebuilds. There should be no need to go, right, I need a completely new philosophy and playing style. It's crazy. So maybe you don't end up with the best manager in terms of their CV, but it's the best fit for your club moving forward. And I think that, for me, is the way you need to operate more. So I keep hearing like Jose to Bayern, and I think Bayern Munich, Jose, even the way they operate as a club isn't a match with Jose Mourinho. The two things together are like water and oil. They just do not go well together. So no.
Someone today said Jose to Liverpool. I'm like, do you understand? Do you understand what Jose would do to Liverpool Football Club? Have some shame. Like, Jose Mourinho, it just doesn't work. But Terry is 100% right. Why should we reinvent ourselves? If you think Liverpool should reinvent themselves, convince me right now why. Because in order to go to a club where you reinvent the club, with all due respect, you need to be like a United right now, or an Arsenal when Arteta first came in, or a Liverpool when Klopp first came in. That is when you need to reinvent stuff. Look at Man City as an example. If Pep Guardiola says he's leaving at the end of the season, why does the next City manager have to reinvent Manchester City? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. You should not reinvent anything. Right now, as things stand, Liverpool have about 15, 16 very good players. Maybe I still believe to the second we're probably 2-3 transfer away from like having like a complete team, So it's not like we have to get a manager in there who sells 10 guys and buys 10 new guys and reinvent the whole thing. No. We need someone similar. And that's why, once again, going back to the Alonso point, he's someone who uses his fullbacks as outlets. He's someone it's not like copying Pep Guardiola's football. Like, he actually plays aggressive, gegen pressing. And I've seen it in his interviews as well. He said, like, basically, They were talking about how they press from their front line and how the right wing back and the left wing back are outlets and blah, blah, blah. That's similar to Klopp. It's not like Klopp, but it's similar at least. So if Xabi Alonso comes in, it's not like, oh my God, let me buy a new right back.
Yeah,
no, he'll just put Trent right wing back. Like, that's it.
You reinvent yourself when you're broken. I want to go to these super chats, but I do have a name of a manager that I think maybe by the end of the season should be someone you consider.
I know who you're going to say because you're shameless. Can I predict who you'll say?
Go on.
Postecoglou.
Yes.
You're so shameless.
Mate, and I am not saying this to wind Spurs fans up or to be disrespectful. I'm looking at a manager in Postecoglou, and I think he could manage the players. I'm not saying he's as good as Klopp, but let me just say this now. I don't believe you're going to sign a manager because I don't think you'll get Zidane. I don't believe you're going to sign a manager that's as good as Klopp because I don't think there's one out there other than he's the second best to Pep in the world to me right now. You could argue Ancelotti, but you're not getting him off Madrid. So let's just say he's the third best manager in the world. You literally can't get better than him. Does that make sense? But I look at Postecoglou and think he can manage the players impeccably well. They play a beautiful pressing style of football. The way they attack is majestic. I've watched how he has taken, listen, by the way, your squad compared to the Spurs squad, you're much better. I look at how he's adapted in the Premier League. Some of the mistakes he made in the opening periods, even though he won quite a lot, and the adaptations he's made. Listen, if names like De Zerbi are being considered, then I don't see why Postecoglou shouldn't be on that list because I think there's something really good about that. Genuinely, I know you're not a big fan of him or you're not a big fan of Tottenham, but I think Postecoglou could be an outside shout, you know.
That's exactly what he should remain, an outside shout, you know. And you just said it yourself, if we're considering De Zerbi, yes, we should consider Ainge, but I'm not considering De Zerbi to begin with, so I'm not going to consider Ainge either. I think Ainge is too stubborn. His problem is he's too stubborn. I think Ainge's issue is he's too stubborn. He refuses to change. He doesn't change the way he plays football. He literally put Eric Dyer in the high line, like against Wolves, ended up losing. So it's just like, stuff like that. I think in the Premier League to be able, and by the way, me and you spoke about this, I think it was 3 weeks ago when we said the only manager, factually speaking, to beat Pep Guardiola to a league title is a guy who does his own shit. Like everyone's trying to beat Pep. Pep is like a fox. He's a sly fox. He fooled the whole world to play Pep football, but then you're never going to play Pep football better than Pep football. Like, he's the guy who made the football, so how can you play better than the guy who made it?
You see it all the time in life when people try and imitate great things that already exist. They're never as good. They're often awful in comparison. So, no, I hear you completely, mate. There's some super chats here I want to go to. First one says, hi, Terry and Hussam. The era of Fergie, Mourinho, Wenger was more difficult than now in the Premier League.
It was more difficult maybe in terms of mid-table clubs and stuff like that. I agree with you. But in terms of fighting at the top, shit that Pep Guardiola's doing, like, yo, that is difficult to compete with.
It's, look, I still think that was the best era that we've had in the Premier League. Of course, things evolve. It's almost like this. Yes, 100. There are 100-meter sprinters now that don't even make the finals of the Olympics, whose running times now would have been world records 50 years ago. 100 years ago. So there's been a natural improvement within the sport, which is quite natural, which is quite normal, sorry. But yeah, look, I think that pound for pound, including Pep and Klopp they're the only modern managers really that have put themselves in the conversations with the sort of forebearers really of the Premier League. There's no doubt.